Exclusive, what really crashed in Roswell. Man who investigated the famous 1947 New Mexico wreckage said he found indestructible debris that was not made by human hands in his private journals, which are revealed for the first time. So today we're going to be looking at the private journals of Jesse Marcel. He was the intelligence officer with the 509th Bombardment Group at Roswell Army Airfield, and he was tasked with investigating the 1947 Roswell crash. And this is his grandchildren telling the story decades after the Roswell event. They say he determined the wreckage was not made by human hands, and he claimed there were beams with alien writing etched across them. Now remember, Marcel was the adult there, and he brought this home to his kids, and so his children and grandchildren are the ones recounting this, but I think it was his son who actually also inspected the debris.
The first person in human history ever to see writing from another world.
The U.S. government, of course, says the debris was the remains of a weather balloon, and then later on said it was other stuff. Marcel's grandchildren have been holding on to his journal for 15 years since he passed away, and they say it could unravel the true story to what really happened in Roswell, New Mexico. So without further ado, this is a terrific article in the sense that there's a lot of good pictures and some new information, and I just want to punch through it, and it's by Stacy Liberatore for the dailymail.com on the 10th of December, 2020. Let's get into it. So for anybody who doesn't know,
this local rancher just brought in a whole lot of, I don't know what you call it, but he claims it all came down at his place, and the sheriff thinks it might be something you guys sent up.
Our government encountered something.
Something, top secret.
It was the summer of 1947 during the Cold War. The Roswell Bombardment Group was where the nuclear arsenal at the time was, the fledgling arsenal was running out of, and that's all the bomber pilots and everybody who had dropped the bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki and were working on all the more advanced stuff, and the Cold War was beginning. They were all based out of Roswell, so it was sort of the center of nuclear weapons deployment in the world. About almost 2 hours away, so it's claimed to be in Roswell, New Mexico, but it's really farther off that this happened. And there's even some question about that, because there was another incident that happened in a little bit more southern area that at the exact same time period, and there's some really great people who have given witness to that. I think that is one of the most compelling witness stories about this time period, about another crash and about recovered humanoids. So we will talk about that on a separate video. But basically, U.S. Air Force stated the weather balloon was part of Project Mogul. I don't want to waste everyone's time. Let's talk about what really happens here in this article. Jesse Marcel, who's the intelligence officer, brought home all of this debris, showed it to his son, showed it to his wife, woke him up in the middle of the night. I think he filled his old Buick or Cadillac or whatever he was driving, probably a Buick if he's working for the military, filled it up with pieces. And these pieces were foil-like pieces, thin metal, I-beams. And by I-beams, we're talking like small I-beams, not like, large things you would put in a building. Same concept, shaped like an extruded eye, but the letter I. Nonetheless, that's what he seemed to be bringing in. And frankly, I've always wondered, because the description of the debris sounds a lot more like what back in 2018 or 2019 the U.S. government described, which was a scaffolding-like nuclear radiation detection, high-altitude balloon scaffolding sort of a thing that they had invented at the time, and were looking to see what the Soviets were up to and if they were testing nuclear devices. And that certainly is what it sounds like. And there's some interesting stuff in this article, so I want to talk about it because it kind of opens up your eyes. Now, again, I don't take anything that anybody says when it comes to UFOs at face value. There's a heck of a lot of psychological operations going on here. The whole topic may be psychological operations, because I've personally never seen anything that I could claim was an alien. So I can't give you any kind of first-hand witness on this stuff, but there's certainly a lot going on right now, and I just want to chronicle and archive some of these articles and some of these websites for other people to take a look at. So this is dailymail.com again, and back to the article. Jesse Marcel was made to be the fall guy, according to his son Jesse. He claimed, or his grandson, they're all named Jesse, I guess. His grandson claimed his grandfather was ordered to deny what was really at the crash site. Well, we do actually know this is true. So this is one part of the story that's been, at this point, I think, confirmed pretty conclusively by Stanton Freeman and other people over the years. Stanton Freeman being a noted physicist who studied UFOs for many years for the government and then privately. And that is that Jesse Marcel was in fact an intelligence officer, was in fact at Roswell, and was in fact ordered to come up with a cover story for the debris he found. However, what that debris was and whether that was a cover-up of flying saucer crash or whether that was a cover-up of this nuclear testing device that was found are, obviously in contention. So that's the basic of the conspiracy or the cover-up, as the article went and recounted, and I don't know why I didn't just read it. The only physical evidence left of this mystery is Marcel Sr.'s journal. So this is news to me, which is set to be revealed during the History Channel's 3-part series, Roswell, The First Witness. Looks like there's going to be another History Channel series that will be full of ads and repetition and bore the heck out of you. So look at this. Both me and the Daily Mail are helping you get an advanced look at the actual content of this probably hour-long show. You don't have to sit through all that repetition. The show follows the investigation of the Marcel children, along with the host and former CIA operative Ben Smith. Ben Smith... There's another topic we're talking about, but that's a guy who I've seen before, and I always wonder when CIA guys show up interacting with this topic, because this is one of the conspiracy theories, is that this whole topic is a CIA front topic. So it's always weird when they suddenly decide to come on the side of talking about this stuff. So here's a nice cover of the Roswell Daily Record from back in 1947. July, whatever that is, 6th, we're at the famous cover that says RAAF captures flying saucer on ranch in Roswell region. If you've never seen it, that's the cover of the famous newspaper article when the crash first happened and the military first reported it as a flying disc crash. They never revealed any details other than to say that a lot of people were sent out to start recovering it. And of course, the next day, this was rebutted and brought back. However, this newspaper did go out, and not only that, the local radio station put out an announcement. So it was pretty big news, and flying saucers were in the news a lot from around 1947. I think this period is when it all started, if I recall. So what's interesting is that the journal moved from grandfather's hands to our father's and now to ours, said Jesse Marcel III. Inside is a bunch of rambling that doesn't really fit with who our grandfather was. Well, that is, one of these quotes taken out of any kind of context for us, but it is certainly suggestive that this may or may not be viable truth. Or it could be the ramblings of an old man. Who knows? Smith has seen the journal. I don't know why it says all well here. He's seen the journal, which he said shows a change in Marcel Sr.'s mental state. There are breaks in the journal that are not clear, but it could be a secret code, he claimed. More than likely, this is an old man trying to recount this information and put together something as a little bit of a legacy for his kids. And that's my guess. Right off the cuff. So this is Jesse Marcel Sr., and this is the famous photograph released the next day when he had flown with the debris down to, I believe it was Texas. And you don't see in this frame, but there is the commander or senior officer, maybe even a general. It might have been a general, brigadier general or something, that had met him there and told him to show the press this debris. And the debris that they showed was, in fact, a weather balloon, pieces of a Mylar weather balloon. I believe that's Mylar at the time. However, it has since come out that that is not, in fact, the debris that was loaded onto planes and sent to Wright-Patterson and perhaps somewhere else, nor what they recovered from the desert. That doesn't mean they recovered a flying saucer. It means that it was just simply something different that was actually recovered. And again, that's pretty clearly defined now by multiple researchers and people who have come out, witnesses, including most of the people involved in this saga, and of course Mr. Marcel himself, who said that he was told to put up this weather balloon in this famous photo and tell everyone that that's what it was. Understandable, during the Cold War, we had no idea what the Soviets had done with the Rosenbergs having stolen, the information for the nuclear weapon and others from the British, a lot of British traders trying to even the playing field. So, back to the story. I keep getting sidetracked here. Marcel has since died, but his story lives on with his grandchildren, and this is Jesse Marcel III on the left. That's the grandson, and Jesse Marcel on the right. That's the son who reportedly saw this when he was a child, got to see this debris firsthand. I came on this on neutral ground, says Marcel III. I wanted to determine truth from fiction and represent known and unknowns. Oh, no, this is a quote from this Ben Smith, the CIA guy. If I didn't think there was more to the story, I would not have taken on the project. Yeah, whatever. They spent a year on this project. He and Marcel's children began speaking with Marcel Sr.'s close contacts and then surviving family members of local Roswell residents who first reported the wreckage to the authorities. Scientific methods were also used to investigate the crash site. Looks like this now they're going on talking about the special. Smith employed multispectral imagery technology to identify any foreign bodies through their chemical composition in the soil, I guess is what he's saying. I'm not convinced that it is a balloon, Smith said, but I'm still waiting to complete my decision. Jesse did his duty to toe the publicity line. Again, this is a rambling article, and I'm doing a rambling job of presenting it to you, so I apologize. Here is an obvious picture of them from the History Channel documentary going in and doing some archaeology on site out there in the desert, I suppose. They don't really attribute the photo, so it could just be stock photo. This is the military photo of Jesse Marcel. It's long ago been established. He really was who he was, so that's not anything to discuss. But hey, I'm getting to the important and interesting part here, UFO interested people. So one thing is that Jesse Marcel's statements did not grow but remain the same. It was a very simple story. And that the wreckage was first discovered by W. Mac Brazel, who was taking his sheep to a nearby stream and discovered, I believe at the time, over a mile of debris scattered across the Foster Ranch, which is, as I said, far away from Roswell proper. Strange pieces of foil that couldn't be cut, burned, or wrinkled, and thin I-beams with strange symbols on them. So here's where we start to get into some interesting new information, folks. The debris field was located in the middle of nowhere. The way they located it was a herd of sheep that refused to cross the field to get to a water source. Okay, that's interesting. Even animals had a sense about whatever it was and did not want to go around it. Animals are not stupid, and they will not necessarily walk across debris fields. I'm not a big, farmer or husbander of animals, but I know that they have two eyes on their head, and they will often be distressed by weird things. And I would think foil of any kind strayed across their land would possibly disturb them, particularly if it had some sort of radiation or anything like that connected to it. So Marcel played a key role in the atomic bombs and all that kind of stuff, which has always been one of the theories about why any kind of UFOs might be finding their way out to Roswell, New Mexico. That is where we had our stockpile, or at least where we were perhaps testing flying around with them. Now, Mr. Marcel had examined the debris in the field and determined it was not made by human hands. He was a smoker at the time, and he pulled a lighter from his pocket in an attempt to melt the metal and warm it, and it would not either melt or warm. And the debris was collected and brought to the Roswell base, where Marcel and his colleagues attempted to determine what the pieces were and what type of material they were constructed from. He grabbed a drill after reaching the base, according to his son, Jesse, and tried to drill a hole through one of the pieces, but he said the blades broke on impact. Well, that is pretty impressive, and I've heard that before, but it's nice to see it in writing here that he actually did do that. Marcel described the pieces uncovered at the wreckage to his grandchildren as being light and strong. Not only that, but he showed it to his son and showed them that it was very light and unbendable. Some were beams etched with alien writing, according to Marcel, and the debris appeared to be metal and plastic pieces, along with miles of fiber optics. He said there were glass fibers and fiber optics that may have been from computers on the ship. Well, that's the first time I've heard that, so I'll put that in the record. I've heard that there was some translucent material and that light kind of moved through the material. I never heard the description of it as fiber optics. I can imagine why they would think that, but that there were actual glass fibers, I don't recall ever hearing before. Here's a nice little map of where Roswell is in New Mexico. You'll see it's far the way down towards Texas and the Mexico border, very far away from Utah, Colorado, and Arizona, and Oklahoma and Texas, where we see all kinds of activity and where we have all of our nuclear facilities here in New Mexico, and where we blew up all our atom bombs, and we have all kinds of stuff that has gone on in that great empty state of New Mexico. Here's another picture of that famous scene when Marcel Sr. was in front of the general here and put out his debris. I don't know what this pile of stuff is right over here, whether that's part of the debris. Heck, I thought that was a dog for a second. I don't even know what that is. But again, take a look at that picture. It's a famous picture. It definitely shows some sort of a radiosome or a weather balloon. Now, let's stop for a second and take a look at this, because this is a famous video that is astounding. And, I don't know how else I could show this to you, but to just watch it on the page here. I've seen this before, and it kind of comes and goes, and it's been in a few documentaries, but this is what they describe as creepy footage believed to show alien carried away on stretcher. I've heard some people talk about the fact that this is just a training exercise, that this was just a hoax joke, that this was a reenactment, but by golly, this is a really convincing piece of footage. I'm assuming that it is fake, or that it is some sort of reenactment, or that it is something else, but it looks like some overexposed piece of Super 8 or whatever they were doing at the time, maybe 16 millimeter, black and white, that was surreptitiously either filmed very quickly by people who were, obstructed by what looks to be on the side here, a jacket or some kind of, clothing. So it may have been surreptitiously filmed by someone who wasn't supposed to be filming, or it may have been a cut strip from a film, or it may have been recorded from a film. In other words, a film onto a film, which could explain the overexposure. All of which could be hoaxed, all of which could be fake, but by golly, look at the uniforms and everything. So let's briefly watch this and take a look at this film. As you can see, this is Army men with what looks to be lights in a hangar or something, and they're walking around a stretcher and examining somebody lying on the floor here, and that is the reported EV, alien person, or whatever they are. And they do some pans and close-ups of this, and incredibly overexposed. And they play with the feet, and they're pointing out the arm length and the body, and they kind of pass over it very quickly. Again, what a hoax would do. And then they just kind of repeat there several times on that section. They lay down the stretcher, and you can see airmen wearing bomber jackets. I just love how this is set up. If somebody faked this, they really did a nice job. Most Hollywood movies don't even have people actually acting, out of frame here, because this is kind of the kind of pile of activity that people would have. I just find it amazing that people would actually be touching an alien body. Though they may just be pointing at it. It's hard to tell with the overexposure. Anyway, there is a rather famous film and something worth studying. So again, here's some more quotes that are new. When my grandfather came home with the debris, our dad looked through it with a shining light and saw a purple light inside with a symbol of a seal balancing a ball on its nose. Now, folks, this is news to me. I've watched documentaries on this stuff. I've seen countless shows and articles I've read, and I have never heard that Jesse Marcel Jr., when his dad came home with this debris in his Buick, that he looked through it with a shining light and saw a purple light inside. I recall some kind of a light, maybe that it glowed purple, but I never recalled a symbol of a seal balancing a ball on its nose. That to me is amazing, and I don't know if that's in this journal. I don't see, attribution here that would help us understand that context. A symbol of a seal balancing a ball on its nose. That's incredible. That sounds very terrestrial to me. I find it hard to believe that an animal, depicted an Earth animal would be depicted like that in such a human activity. You know what I'm trying to say, circus act kind of thing, a seal balancing a ball, and that aliens would be flying around with this on there. It sounds more like a logo, or some kind of a warning symbol that would be on U.S. military equipment, special ops equipment. It could be a logo for some kind of special ops team. It just seems like one of those things that really takes the credibility of this as an alien event down a little notch if it's true. But again, I've never heard it before. So Jesse said that their father motioned for their grandfather to come and take a look, and my grandfather said, "You might be the first person on Earth
The first person in human history ever to see writing from another world.
to look at alien writing." Well, everything I've ever heard said that there was hieroglyphics seen on the I-beam, and that those hieroglyphics were reproduced. There was actually a reproduction I-beam made to show what those hieroglyphics look like, and maybe I'll edit that and drop that in there, because there's photographs of the reproduction that Marcel Jr. Approved of. And this is the first time where the symbol of a seal balancing a ball is what was described as being on side lit up purple, which could have been simply translucent purple foil or something like that. And then reportedly, Marcel said it probably tells you how to use the onboard toilet. I guess it's hard to tell who this is attributed to. Again, the Daily Mail is written either by foreigners or a computer. I don't know who writes this, but not a lot of context here. However, Air Force report regarding the event stated the debris was pieces from Project Mogul's balloons. I don't think that's true. I think an Air Force report recently said that it was Project Mogul's balloons originally. They said it was just a weather balloon. There were numerous flights of Project Mogul, blah, 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 blah. So, again, there's more of these famous photographs of Marcel showing off the weather balloon. And here they just have a random quote. Says bodies of extraterrestrial aliens were supposedly retrieved. Although Marcel Sr. said he did not see a living being at the Roswell site, he claimed there were multiple crash sites around the same time where other investigators said they witnessed something living or was once alive. Well, that is absolutely interesting, because there's another terrific interview there on the National Archives YouTube channel with a witness who was a young man who went with his family out looking for some sort of a mineral. I don't remember what it was, gypsum or something. And they were out in the New Mexico desert doing this, and he had just moved to the area, and they came upon an archaeology expedition from, I think it was University of Pennsylvania, and the archaeologist was with his students, and they all came upon a flying saucer that had crashed into the side of a like a wadi, a washout, a gully, one of those stream beds that fills the water in the desert. So, and that there was actually a living entity there and a couple of dead ones. And the living entity was quite distressed, and that the military came down with all holy importance and took over the scene and told everybody to forget about it. And it's a very interesting story, and it's at the exact same time as this reported incident up near Roswell, and it is much more detailed, and it definitely involves a living being. So they claim also that the big thing about our grandfather is that this put him under a lot of pressure. So that's very interesting. It's always interesting when people claim that they are under stress to keep a secret, because you have to wonder what that secret is and why they would be under pressure if it wasn't a real secret. If it was just a radioactive detector in the sky, radiation detector, why in the world would anybody be under pressure? He felt he was the right person who was at the right place at the right time, and he was very lucky to be that guy even after all the pressure. He was head of intelligence for World War II, a bombing program, so he knew how to protect secrets, and was someone they chose to see the wreck and report back. So there you go. I don't know what all these... Oh, yeah, the rest of these pictures are just the usual Daily Mail stuff. Yeah, very interesting article there with a couple interesting facts. Most interesting fact is the picture of a seal with a ball on its nose. And for all those who don't know what that would look like, seal with ball on nose picture. Okay, look, that's it. That's what they saw. This is what they claim to have seen on the crashed piece of debris. I don't know where that comes from, but that's interesting information. So I have now shared this with you, and I will go into more detail on some other websites and some new stuff that's coming out. And I hope you found this very interesting. Thanks.